or death. He finds another puzzling clue. The lungs of almost all the victims are extensively damaged. Many have ruptured like an exploding balloon. To top it all, Fenari finds no evidence of a bomb blast. It's a strange, perplexing picture, and he's baffled. With so little evidence, the investigation hits a dead end. Concerned, Prime Minister Churchill summons his advisors and takes an unprecedented step. Churchill commands the Royal Navy to retrieve the wreckage of Flight 781 from the seabed. His orders are simple: endeavor to locate and salve Comet. The task, however, is anything but simple. There has never been a salvage operation like it before. The wreckage lies at a depth of 120 meters, and no one knows exactly where.
Today, if an aircraft crashed in similar circumstances, the black box recorders would have transponders and would lead the investigators and the recovery teams to the spot where the aircraft was. The Navy didn't have that information.
HMS Wrangler, an anti-submarine frigate, searches an area of 260 square kilometers. 3 salvage vessels are on hand to help. They're equipped with the most up-to-date technology, including an underwater camera and a deep-sea observation chamber. But progress is delayed by bad weather. Then, on February 12th, 33 days after the crash, Navy experts identify the first piece of the Comet wreckage on the underwater camera. Divers descend to the seafloor. Over the next few weeks, small bits of debris are sent back to England for examination. Then comes a major find. A large section of the rear fuselage is located and brought to the surface. Meanwhile in London, the Comet fleet sits idle. BOAC hemorrhages cash at the rate of £50,000 per week. With so much invested in the aircraft, pressure builds to get the planes back into the air. On March 23rd, 10 weeks after the disaster, the British government give the airline the go-ahead to resume service.
At London Airport, a Comet airliner about to leave for Johannesburg was taking out extra crew members.
Press and television attend the relaunch.
Everybody was in high spirits at the resumption of Comet flying.
BOAC Chairman Sir Miles Thomas gives the Comet a public vote of confidence.
We obviously wouldn't be flying the Comet with passengers in it on service were we not wholly satisfied that the conditions are acceptable for carrying passengers anywhere in the world.
Wreckage from Flight 781 arrives in England piece by piece. Investigators identify and mark every fragment. In a hangar, carpenters build a wooden frame of the Comet aircraft. As the wreckage accumulates, they wire each piece onto this skeleton. Now, with the entire Comet fleet back in service, it's more important than ever to find the cause of the crash. The lives of hundreds of passengers depend on it. April 1954. While investigators urgently look for clues into the crash of Comet Flight 781, the British government give BOAC the go-ahead to relaunch their Comet fleet. It's a terrible mistake. At 6:32 p.m. on April 8th, 16 days after the resumption of flying, a Comet takes off from Rome bound for Egypt. 14 passengers and 7 crew members are on board. 33 minutes into the flight, the pilot reports that he's on course flying at 11,000 meters. It's his final message. A further 21 people are dead. The news sends shockwaves around the world. Barely a fortnight after reassuring the public the Comet is safe to fly, BOAC's chairman publicly admits that he was wrong.
Obviously, we cannot continue to carry the public in Comets until this disaster is fully explained.
Similarities between the two accidents are uncanny. Both planes were refueled and checked at Rome by the same engineers, including Jerry Bull.
You just can't accept that an aeroplane like this, again, it's gone down the same way and you've lost these people again.
Both aircraft were flying at an altitude of around 10,000 meters. Both crashed into the sea shortly afterwards. It seems there must be a flaw in the aircraft itself. Churchill acts decisively. He appoints the Royal Aircraft Establishment, Britain's leading aeronautical research centre, to investigate. Heading the inquiry will be Sir Arnold Hall. Hall has an impressive reputation. He's a Cambridge scholar and one of the outstanding scientists of his generation. But even for a man as qualified as Hall, it's going to be a tall order. The second plane to crash rests under 1,000 meters of water and is impossible to retrieve. The hope is that if they can establish the cause of Flight 781's crash, it will explain why the second aircraft went down. Over the next 4 months, 781's wreckage is methodically pieced together at Sir Arnold Hall's headquarters in Farnborough. It's groundbreaking work.
Never before on that scale had an aircraft been reassembled by anyone, and the investigation team had to learn how to do it and develop the techniques and tools to reassemble a very badly damaged aircraft.
As they examine each piece of debris, they find intriguing clues. Bits of carpet, pills from the first aid cabinet, a corner of a mirror from the toilet, and scraps of passengers' luggage are all found wedged into the rear end of the fuselage, under the root of the tail fin. It suggests an explosion at the front of the cabin that blasted personal belongings to the rear of the plane. The question is, how and where did the explosion start? As the wreckage begins to provide some clues, so too do the victims. 4 of the bodies retrieved from the second crash are flown to Britain for post-mortem. The pathologist finds identical injuries to those of Flight 781, fractured skulls and ruptured lungs. Hall has a hunch. Could the entire plane have burst like a balloon? After all, the pressurized cabin designed to keep passengers comfortable would mean that the aluminium skin of the Comet is highly stressed. Any structural failure, and it might simply explode of its own accord. Such a violent decompression, as it's called, has never happened on a passenger plane before, but Hall and his team believe this could explain the terrible injuries. To test the theory, they stage a pioneering experiment. The team build a Perspex model of the fuselage, 1/10 the actual size. The cabin includes 28 miniature seats with 6 dummies. The model is housed inside a pressure chamber. When the pressure in the fuselage is increased to 8¼ pounds, the equivalent of flying at 12,000 meters, the team deliberately rupture the model. A high-speed camera captures the results. The rapidly escaping air causes a tremendous release of energy. Seats tear apart and fly through the air. The dummies catapult vertically and smash their heads on the cabin roof. It's a graphic demonstration of a phenomenon experts like Paul Withy understand only too well.
The pressure cabin exploding is the same as a 500-pound bomb going off inside the cabin.
The experiment appears to explain how the victims of both flights sustained such